Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Michael Noland here, and today I'm shooting two videos, and those videos will be, of course, my review of Led Zeppelin's magnificent album, a personal favorite of mine, Houses of the Holy. But you know, when I do album reviews, those videos require a bit more editing, and so this particular video that you're watching is coming out just before that one. And this one is a video I probably should have put out about 2 weeks ago, if you think about it. Okay, so for those of you who have kept up on my videos, you know that I've already identified my 5 favorite guitar players, and I've of course given my reasonings regarding that top 5 list. I followed it up, of course, with a two-parter covering the 10 most underrated guitarists, but they, with a few exceptions, are not necessarily in my top 10, just underrated in general, I feel. But you know, a couple of those artists actually make it in to my top 10 list, rock guitarists of all time. Now, eventually, what I'm going to do is release a list of my top 25 guitarists in rock. Now, the reason I'm going to 25 instead of just a top 10 or a top 20 list is the very fact that rock and roll now has been around a whole long time, right? And the lists that were originally generated when rock and roll was only, say, 20 years old were a lot easier to compile. There was just a whole lot fewer guitarists at that time. But you know, a lot of the lists today reflect guitar players, fine guitar players. Don't get me wrong, they have a place somewhere on a top guitarist list. But you know, magazines like Rolling Stone, when they compile their lists, I get this sinking feeling that the only reason some of these newer guitar players are on the list is just to update the list and make the list appear more current. I'm sorry. If the current guitar players aren't up to snuff, they don't get on my list. Plain and simple. I'm not the kind of guy that's gonna start tearing down old rock god guitarists just to seem like I'm a happening kind of guy. So, in my opinion, if a current guitar player is going to be placed on a current list, I want real identifying markers that show me that guitar player belongs on that list. Okay, so I just want to go over the rules that exist in my head as to what makes a great guitar player. Just a reminder, folks. Number 1 is the ability for that guitar player to play within the structure of a song. Extra points for guitarists who are actually involved in the writing of that song. You know, you've all heard me say it before. What really makes a great rock band is their songs. And really, why wouldn't that be an identifier for a truly great rock guitarist? So they have to have a sense of melody, they have to have a sense of the song structure in my head. Number 2, and sort of connected to my number 1 point here, is their ability to be orchestrational. Now, by orchestrational, what I mean is, does their guitar playing add something different, something grand to the song, something you've never heard before? And finally, number 3, and here's where I think a lot of lists go wrong. Number 3, riffability. You know, there are a ton of riff masters out there in rock and roll, and maybe some of your favorite guitarists haven't made my list yet. But remember, if I'm covering the top 25 guitarists, number 99 is a hair's breadth from where these people are. The scope, the grandeur of the amount of guitarists available to put on a list these days is so crammed and chock full of great guitar players, for any guitarist to even make it into the top 100 is a pretty amazing feat, if you ask me. Now, I've gotten a lot of great response with the channel at this point. The growth factor on this channel has just been totally amazing. But even more than that is the comments. Man, you guys are laying it on. You're letting me know where you don't agree with me. And guess what? All of the comments have been very respectful. So I want to thank you guys for bringing that energy into the channel. That's exactly what I wanted to accomplish to begin with when starting the channel. Of course, I'll be giving shout outs at the end of this video to any new subscribers like I usually do. But let's get back to guitar players number 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, number 10, and this is gonna piss off a lot of people, I can tell you already, Eddie Van Halen. Now, why would that piss off a lot of people? I'll tell you why. There are those out there, and those with a very good point of view on this, that think the sun sets, the sun rises on Eddie Van Halen, and for pretty good reasonings too. Now, I've already explained in the past that I like the abilities of a lot of shredders. And of course, Eddie Van Halen, for the most part, was the first shredder that most of us were introduced to. And just his recordings with Michael Jackson alone was enough to get my attention in the very first place. Okay, so with that in mind, why is he as low as number 10? And I've got to tell you, I think it's because of his choice of lead singers. When he was with David Lee Roth, David's vocals were about as crazy as any riff that Eddie was throwing at you. Hot for Teacher is a great example of that. There was an excitement to these. But then they changed lead vocalist and Sammy Hagar arrived. Now, if you ask me, Sammy Hagar is the superior vocalist between David Lee Roth and him. But the match wasn't what it was when Sammy Hagar was playing with Montrose. I'm sorry. In my opinion, Sammy should have stayed with Montrose and David Lee Roth should have stayed with the Van Halen group. When these two worked together, and if they had continued to work together, I guarantee you, Eddie Van Halen would have been higher on this list. But with Sammy Hagar's excellent vocals, there's no problem with his vocals. I love him. He just didn't supply that craziness that Van Halen needed that David Lee Roth so expertly provided. Next up in the number 8 position, I have chosen Rory Gallagher, and there's a reason why he didn't make a higher position, and we'll discuss that in a moment. Okay, so now we've already discussed the aspects that I love about Rory Gallagher in past videos, so we're not going to get in too much to his actual playing other than to say, this is a man with a guitar vocabulary, this is a man with riffs, and of course this is a man who could contest the magnificent Johnny Winter at any roadhouse that exists on planet Earth, guys. So in the end, my final analysis, Rory Gallagher, underappreciated, not only underappreciated, but number 9 on my list. Okay, so with positions number 7 and 8, I have a problem switching these two guys, but we're gonna go ahead and take a look at number 8, an uncomfortable position for me to place this guitarist in, but at number 8, I have to place Stevie Ray Vaughan. Okay, so now if you were to narrowly confine all of these guitarists into that roadhouse kind of smokehouse, let's get it done, rock and roll based on blues patterns and a bluesy feel, yet kicked up to high octane levels, Stevie Ray Vaughan is the master, no doubt. But he's not just this high because he's such a great blues rock riffer. Take a listen to David Bowie's Let's Dance album. He's all over the thing, folks. And the fact that he could play that great of pop/rock oriented type of style on top of what he already did totally amazed me. You know, it's guitarists like Johnny Winter, Rory Gallagher, and especially Stevie Ray Vaughan that I could watch all night long. All right, so that leads to my number 7 position of my top 10 guitarists of all time, and who the hell beat out Stevie Ray Vaughan? Like I said, it was an uncomfortable decision for me, but I've got to rate Carlos Santana just a nudge above Vaughan. Now, my reasoning for this is that rule that I've talked about that I have in my head. genre establishing. Carlos Santana gave us the whole Latino rock sound all wrapped up, and even gave us a complete great presentation of that entire sound at Woodstock. And he was bold. He didn't just stay with that. He got into more jazzy laden albums, even with the group Santana. Caravanserai, Neil Schon on there. I love that album. This is Santana really starting to explore beyond what he was just playing on the streets of San Francisco, if you ask me. And he's shown us throughout the years he can tag team with anybody. He's the guitar version, really, of Robert Plant, if you think about it. You know, vocally, Robert Plant can team up with anybody and we're going to get something special. Carlos Santana can team up with almost any vocalist and present us with something we've never quite heard before. Which of course leads me to my number 6 guitar player of all time, a guitar player I actually wish I could bump up. It's just the company that he keeps at this level that keeps him in my head for some reason, my 6th favorite guitar player of all time, David Gilmour. Now, if you want my specific reasonings in a longer form, take a look at my last video and you'll understand why I've placed this man so high. And to those of you who heard me complain about him being placed too low, and yet you've seen lists where he's even considered number 3, you might feel that I'm letting him down a bit here, but that's not true. Take a look at my first 5 guitarists. They are nobody's fool, and neither is David Gilmour. All I can say is take a listen to their body of work, and I think I've been pretty fair in my assignment with David Gilmour occupying the number 6 position in my top 10 list. My choice for the greatest guitar players of rock. Alright, so that about wraps up this video. What I'm going to do is shut this down for about a half an hour and then shoot the video where I give my thorough analysis to Led Zeppelin's magnificent album, Houses of the Holy. This is a very personal album for me. As I've stated before, it was number 1 on my list for a couple of decades. It's not so high on my list now. As I've listened to the band over the decades, I've come to appreciate other albums for different reasons. But for those of you who put this as their number 1 Led Zeppelin album, I thoroughly understand your reasoning. Again, a big shout out to all of our new viewers. You may be seeing some names down here. Those names are brand new subscribers, and welcome so much to the tribe. You know, if you haven't joined the tribe yet, it's real easy. Just hit that subscribe button, hit that top bell notification, and you'll be notified of all future videos, of course. All right, guys, so that about wraps it up for today. I've got some great ideas on some videos that I'm about ready to shoot, and of course, still coming is my comparison of Rubber Soul and Revolver. This is, of course, the bottom line. I'm Michael Noland, and as always, I'll see you in the next video.